I'm Evan Lazarus, Chief Knowledge Officer for T3Live.com. You don't become a great trader by watching videos and taking courses. You become a great trader through live screen time. Accelerate that learning curve by tapping into the experience of seasoned professionals. Currently, we're offering 5-day free trials to each of our 4 mentoring rooms. In the mentoring rooms, we teach our strategies in the context of the live market. To sign up for a free trial, go to the T3 Live education page, fill out the form, and get started when the next trading session begins. We hope to see you in one of our mentoring rooms.
Good morning. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com.
And I'm Brittany Umar, and together we bring you Morning Call. So world markets are pretty quiet as Europe pauses at 5-year highs and Asia digests what's been a sizable move since August. Our futures are basically flat after tacking on about our 7th day of gains in a row in the prior session. So where do we go from here, Scott?
Imagine that. Everything up, the world didn't end. You have China, like you said, big move since the summer. Europe at 5-year highs. We just had 7 out of 8 sessions to the upside. So, the question I think a lot of traders are asking themselves, what's a trader to do now? If we look at the chart real quickly of the spiders, you will see that, this trend that we've been in since November got tested, right? It got tested here in June, got tested again in August. And right around here, people weren't sure if this trend would break. Would we see a move to the 200-day? Would we need a double bottom? At that point, though, what happened? We turned up. Just when sentiment got its weakest, that's when the market wants to make as many people look bad as possible. So what happened here is you had, a quick move above this pivot on this day. So this was one clue to perhaps cover some shorts and get long. That was right around, 164.5 or 1641 in the SPX. Then, if you remember, when we reclaimed the 50-day moving average, we crossed this mini trend line. That was another spot for adjustments. And now here we are. Okay, we gapped up 2 days ago. We held that yesterday. The longer we stay above this 168.24 area, the higher the probability this pain trade develops where people are underinvested or caught short, and then we see a new move to where the highs here is like a stone throw away. What's the highs here? 170.97. So with that said, lots of nice action across the board.
Right. A lot of people did talk about a September correction. So do you think the recent move surprised traders?
What's interesting is that people have been talking about a September correction, I think, since last May. So in August, we kind of had that correction. So they borrowed from September and August. So when September hit, that's when we didn't know. We didn't know whether or not that trend line would break. And when we were at that support, there were some signs in the momentum names that they were holding stronger. There was some signs in technology that it wasn't breaking down. So there were some clues that this was just the same type of 4 to 6% correction, the same type of correction we've seen over the course of the past year or two. So until that changes, I don't think anyone really switched their strategies except for a lot more fearmongers came on TV talking about 1987, talking about 2001. So with that said, it's same old where your time frame, stick to your macro course, and depending on your risk, if you're an intermediate term trader or look for intermediate trends like us, you had some time to put some positions back on, and at this point, maybe you feel it out a little bit further to commit to see if that gap does hold.
Right. Well, and another thing people are talking about, of course, is tapering, and we have the Fed meeting next week, so perhaps we could still get that September correction depending on the outcome of the Fed meeting and how the markets absorb the news.
Well, that could happen. Okay, so that's why I think we have to really look at these levels. So right here, again, we'll go back to the spiders. If this level holds and goes sideways through the course of next week, and they do announce some type of tapering, which I think they will. I think it'll be anywhere between 10 to 12 billion off the 80 billion, and this continues to hold. We'll know the speed is pent up and can continue. If all of a sudden we get in this gap and it comes back and retests this area right around here. That would slow down the action. That would make it longer, perhaps, to then make new highs. So with that said, we can measure the speed by how we hold up. And right now, today's only Thursday. We have, 3 or 4 sessions before the Fed. So we'll see what happens between now and then. But ultimately, I think traders that are moving around amongst stocks with great setups can continue to make money whether there's taper or not.
Right. We know biotech has been an area of strength, and there are several potential setups there. Let's start with Celgene, which has actually been holding above its 8-day for the past 2 weeks.
Yes, and this one's not really worried about the taper talk,
right.
which a lot of stocks are the same. But you look here, and you'll see that Celgene, which has been, it hasn't had such clean setups all the time. But you look here at this gap that happened in June. We talk about if gaps don't get filled, typically that means they go in the direction of that gap, and this was to the upside. You had a quick peak, came back, retested it, double bottom type trade. Here is when it started to act better again, following the 8-day moving average. And the question is, can you get a trade through the prior high for further gains? And that's 151-ish. At this point, still looks good in a very strong trend. And this has been a great investment vehicle and a good trader along the way.
And we know Amgen has a good setup as well. I think this is one of your favorites, right?
Well, different stocks have different setups at different times, and this one at least is hovering right in front of old highs, so it makes a potential move juicy. And if you look here at Amgen, you'll see that it also has had a really nice move, in April, and since then has been consolidating. Now it's hovering right near these highs, above the moving averages. So if you look here at Amgen, you'll see tight pattern. Okay, you have now about 6-7 sessions above the 8-day, hasn't been able to push through yet. So if it does push through, we could get the same type of move that we saw in BIIB yesterday. This is 113.28. And that move yesterday, was really nice and rewarding for some traders.
Right. Well, since you brought it up, BIIB gained about 3.3% yesterday. Why don't you show us that one?
Okay. Well, I want to show this because it shows you what traders look for, and when there are nice setups combined with a great name. And here it is. BIIB. Look at that. All right. So here's a big channel that it's been in. For almost 5-6 months. Okay, then what did it do? It came up to resistance and then hovered there. So you had just say this is the move. It hovered in the top 25%, showing it being pent up, and then you had that price point. So the price point guys were looking at was around 231 yesterday. And look at this clean breakout through. You could have bought above this high, 230, 231, and it closed at 236.27. So if you were in this trade as a swing trader, you could have added a tier. If you were an active trader and you don't hold it, you could have just taken the setup yesterday, and who knows how it's opening today, but it's right near the old highs here of 242, which I don't think will be a problem in the coming sessions. Let's get in one more name, Alexion Pharmaceuticals. Tight setup there. Maybe we'll get a breakout. Let's take a look. I haven't looked at this one in a while. Earlier in the year, guys were all over it. Yeah, you look at this setup, not quite. Yeah, I would say this is in the game. Look at that, another bio. You want to go across from the prior two peaks. It's above the moving averages, is holding higher. At this one, I think it's not as clear cut as like the Amgen buy price or the BIIB yesterday, but overall, this is your next obstacle, 117.31. Let's see if we can get through there with some kind of authority. All right, as we continue our search for more potential setups, we're going to go in the trenches with food and beverage stocks right after this quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm Mark Sperling, Director of Trading with T3 Trading Group and contributor to T3 Live. Do you trade on your own, but you wish you enjoyed the benefits of a large trading floor? With the T3 Live virtual trading floor, we deliver that experience to you on your computer. On the VTF, you can follow the long and short positions of experienced professional traders like myself, Scott Redler, and others, and listen to our live radio stations as we navigate the markets. In addition, you get the added value of a large community of sophisticated and like-minded traders. Your membership to the virtual trading floor also includes access to our two very popular newsletter products, Off the Charts and the Price Point Sheet at no additional cost. In my opinion, joining the room will be the best trading decision you will ever make. I would like to invite you to begin your membership with a 7-day free trial. To get started, visit t3live.com and click on the Virtual Trading Floor tab. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the VTF.
We're back and going in the trenches with food and beverage stocks after the impressive moves in Chipotle and Starbucks yesterday, two stocks that both made new highs.
Yes, two stocks that had two different types of setups. We did go over Chipotle, we didn't go over Starbucks, but if you look here at the type of move that they had, you want to show how it could happen so then you could look for some others. And Chipotle, which has been in a really nice trend for the majority of this year, ever since the lows that were here. I remember that. Unfortunately, I think Sperling came in long this that day and boom, but reclaimed it quickly. And then it's been following a really nice trend, throughout that year, even though some big hedge fund guys are talking about being shorted. With that being said, it's been hovering above all the moving averages, recently above the 821, and here was your nice 2-day move. So that rewarded some traders. Even Starbucks, something I think people more agree upon to the upside. Look at this trend, okay, to the upside. Well, same kind of coincidence. It's above the 8 and 21 day. finally got tight, broke out above it. Really nice 2-day move. So the question is, can some other stocks within this group get that same type of action?
Right. So from Starbucks to Dunkin', can Dunkin' get that kind of action?
Dunkin', one of my three amigos from 2012. Remember those three I talked about? I said stocks for the drawer. It was, I think, Dunkin', it was Coors, and what was the third? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
There you go. Anyway, so I haven't spoke about Dunkin' in a while, but if you look at it here, the chart's looking pretty good again. This is when we talked about it way back when, okay, when it had this cup and handle pattern from when, it went public, and it definitely was a little sloppy, okay, but a lot of different entry type points here on the way up. And now, if you look at where it is on the daily chart, it looks like it's just poking its head up, for additional action. So here are all the moving averages that started to combine and curl up. It poked its head out here yesterday, so sometimes we call this a little bit, I wouldn't say quite day one, but anyway, with that being said, people are looking for some things to buy, things to do. I think they expanded into the UK today or somewhere, I read that. So I think if you want to put another position on, put this verse, this moving average, and you could get, above this 45 and a quarter at some point within the next few weeks.
Another coffee name, Green Mountain, had that nice breakout back in August. Do you think we can get additional action there?
This is one that my traders flock to because it's heavily shorted, it moves when it wants to, the action's fast, and it looks like it's getting tight again. So if you look at Green Mountain Coffee, a stock that everyone loves to talk about the risks with and not the strong trend, here's the last channel, gapped up, held it, couldn't get back below it, broke out above it, it's starting to get tight again. So with that said, keep this on the radar for a potential move. If it starts getting above, 86.75, perhaps cheat and buy a little bit, and then you have the 2013 high here of about 89.62. So see if this type pattern, could yield a breakout type move.
What about SodaStream? Can we get a breakout move here?
It's trying. It's been poking its head up. Every now and then the trader's saying, "Oh, look at soda, look at soda." So you take a look here. I'm like, I don't have carbonated drinks anymore. But anyway, with that said, here's the peak. Here's your little triangle getting nice and tight, trying to poke its head above it. It's going to need some volume to go. It looks okay. Get one little price point here. You have 66. And then you have this 68.20. So in order for people to start, for it to get squeezed and get exciting, it's going to have to start to clear this with a big wide range bar. Until that happens, just keep it on the radar.
All right, we're going to do some quick hits here. Let's talk Apple, which slipped 5.5% yesterday. Carl Icahn then comes out and says he bought more shares. Think we'll get a bounce on that news today.
I think that could lend a little confidence, not the same type when he tweeted about it when it took back the 200-day, but lots of traders got pretty lucky to the fact that the day of the announcement the stock acted so poorly, so it gave us clues to get out of the way because it's been a really nice trade since the lows of the summer, since it reported earnings, and the trade changed. You look here at Apple, you will see ever since it broke above here, it was a pretty exciting pent up nice trade all the way up to about 513. Then in this flag, we weren't sure if it would get continuation, what kind of Tim Cook would we see, and we saw a boring same old Tim Cook with no surprises, and that happened. So take a closer look here, to see what we could do if we're not caught in this mess, which we're not. And at this particular point, this was that high level stop around 503.50. This was yesterday's gap down into the 200-day, into that area we were talking about in yesterday's morning call. And you have a doji. So what a doji does is creates levels to trade against. The gap starts at 473.69. If it trades into that gap, you could see some kind of cash flow type movement. The question is how much of this gap gets filled, and we could see what type of move we'll have in the future based on the type of gap fill. If it can't get in this gap and stays here and then turns lower, you'll know that it remains a B to a C trade. If it all of a sudden gets in this gap and this was extra emotional or whatever, then maybe it could repair because it's still, using your retracement rules, it did from the low, okay, of here all the way up to the peak. All it really retraced was, a third or 0.382% of this move, which overall is healthy. It just changed the pent-up trade that we were seeing, over here. So with that said, here are your points of reference. Apple's never a quick hit for me.
Well, you mentioned LinkedIn before. LinkedIn did make a new high and closed on high, so maybe traders can still get a piece of this action today.
Yeah, this one will be quick. Like we said, one of the three amigos. Lots of times to get in and get out. Yesterday, guys on the floor were like, look at this setup. Above the 8-day, nice and tight, closed through it. It can continue. This trend has been strong, and at this point, just trim and trail.
And if we talk LinkedIn, got to talk Facebook. Closed on a new high yesterday and got an upgrade today.
Yes, where are those Barron's 15 price target? I just say that all the time because I got so much flack that weekend. It was on the cover of Barron's and it said 15 because all that time I'm like, the highs of the year aren't in. So everyone's like, Red Dog, is the highs of the year in? You know, so anyway, with that said, you know, just got to throw it in. Ever since earnings, so even if you weren't in this mess of, you know, the cup and handle pattern that we were talking about for so long, you know, with the cup, you know, here, I'm going to do it quick, and then the descending channel, you could have gotten involved after earnings, after it cleared this resistance. Look how symmetrical that is. So with that said, here you are, nice little buy price there, one here, and then it held where it had to. We talked about whether it would hold the 8th day, and it did. Blasted off, got upgraded today. Nothing anymore to the left, so we'll just see how it goes. At this point, you know, you could trim and trail, but it does feel like it still wants higher prices.
And quickly, 3D Systems. Do you think we'll get a breakout here? It looks like it could be getting tight.
Now this one is tough because, you know, it starts off strong and then it gets a little just forgotten about. You need heavy volume in this name for it to go. But overall, the pattern looks like it's setting up. So with that said, we talked about this channel that's been in here for almost 4 to 5 months. Here is when it tried to break out above it, and now it's just really quiet, consolidating, just out of play. Some people think it's stalling for it to come back in the channel, you know, or it could ignite again. But in order for it to ignite, it's really got to get above 53 with heavy volume, and maybe even other names in the group getting stronger, like SSYS, which also has been just kind of, you know, coming back in or drifting. So this group is drifting right now. XONE also drifting. You know, actually, this one looks like it kind of broke this trend here. So we'll see. You know, keep it on the radar. It's going to have to really get above this 53 and change with heavy volume in order to interest some of the traders on the floor.
So overall, there are clearly things to do out there. What will you be focusing on as you start the trading session?
You know, just some of these setups, creating cash flow. You know, for me, I get a little gun shy when we're up 7 out of 8 days because it's just the way I'm my makeup. You know, which I didn't put on this morning. That was my eyeshadow. No. With that said, you know, I get a little. You know, I don't go all in. I don't go tier 3. I don't go. I just can't do that after a move like we've seen. But what I'm not going to do is just blindly short things. I'm not going to look for things to overtrade. So I'll do a little less, but if something shows its face, okay, like yesterday, Facebook was a really nice setup. Some guys made good money with it. Remember Baidu yesterday, out of nowhere, you didn't even have to be long Baidu, you could have made good money. You know, so, you know, setups are showing their face. Go with the setup. Maybe don't expect a lot, but if you get pleasantly surprised, go with it. And then, you know, we'll see how the market handles this upper area going into the Fed next week.
And that's your morning call for this Thursday. Happy trading. Have a great day.